Oh, sorry, I didn't see you there. I'm still having trouble processing that this is actually a real thing. Hey, what's up everyone, it's me, SpeedSuperSonic, we're getting another video. In this video today, we are in the morning after the storm. You know, we're having that, new Sonic announcement hangover today, because if somehow you guys didn't know, which I'm sure a majority of you guys know by now, Sonic X Shadow Generations was officially revealed to the public last night in the PlayStation State of Play. Like we said, we didn't see this coming, like, at all before this week was started, so I'm just so happy that we finally have this thing. Pleasant surprise. The game looks amazing, I can't wait for this thing, but there was only so much we were able to cover in that initial reaction video I did yesterday. Since then, so much information on the game has come out, from details on the story, gameplay details, more on the Shadow campaign, little details on the game that we just didn't really know about just yet, and how this incorporates into the main game of Sonic Generations. So without any further ado, we're going to get into all of that in this video today, and we're going to go ahead and start off with the very first article, and that is from PlayStation themselves on their blog. So any further ado, let's dive into that one. Sega reveals Sonic X Shadow Generations. Classic and modern Sonic return with an all-new standalone Shadow campaign. So that already tells us basically what we need to know. This isn't really going to be incorporated into main Sonic Generations, that main game with all 9 levels and some change in there. This is going to be its own standalone thing, so that's interesting. It's time for classic and modern Sonic to reunite in a new remastered collection of iconic 2D and 3D Sonic levels, because God knows we haven't had enough of 2D Sonic and 3D Sonic teaming up together. Today we unveiled Sonic X Shadow Generations, the upcoming Sonic the Hedgehog platformer delivering blistering platforming challenges at speeds only Sonic and Shadow can deliver. It's a greatest hits playlist of iconic 2D and 3D Sonic levels from Sonic Generations, both remastered and expanded for PlayStation 5 and PlayStation 4. But that's not all. Sonic X Shadow Generations also introduces an all-new standalone campaign for Shadow the Hedgehog, making this the definitive blend of classic Sonic, modern Sonic, and Shadow gameplay. The announcement that premiered today shows off a glimpse of the title with action-packed footage to get fans excited for the new additions to come. The original Sonic Generations provided an unforgettable experience to Sonic fans old and new, as it combined nostalgia from early days of Sonic with the latest modern Sonic gameplay at the time. The story centers around Sonic and friends as their universe is thrown into chaos when an ominous power appears, creating time holes, which take Sonic and his friends back in time. While in the past, Sonic runs into familiar faces, including a classic version of himself. Together, they must team up to defeat enemies, save their friends, and find out who is behind this diabolical deed. Now, we all knew that about Generations. There's nothing particularly like, oh my god, wow, that's crazy. This is the game we've known for 13 years, but this is the part that we really want to get into. On top of the remaster of the original Sonic Generations, fans will get to experience new content and play as Shadow the Hedgehog, as he embarks on his own journey parallel to Sonic's. Shadow was first introduced in 2001's platformer Sonic Adventure 2, and has been seen in various titles including Sonic Heroes, Sonic Battle, and his own spin-off title Shadow the Hedgehog. I'm surprised they acknowledged that, but they didn't, acknowledge one of Shadow's best appearances, one of my personal favorites, 06. He was created to be the ultimate life form with incredible speed, ferocious strength, and a rare ability called Chaos Control. By harnessing the power of a Chaos Emerald, he can stop time and warp to new positions. He's always on the outlook for dangers to the world and protects Earth in honor of an old friend. Really glad that they made a mention of that. That's so cool. Since their first meeting, the Blue Blur has been the only one able to keep up with Shadow, a fact that both fascinates and frustrates Shadow, and has been the driving force to bring out the best in him. Two sides of the same coin, Sonic and Shadow are unfriendly rivals through and through. Interesting that they describe it as that, but they can put the differences aside when the fate of the world is at stake. Players will dive into Shadow's dark past to understand his motivations and learn more about him as a character. That has to be one of the greatest sentences I've read from any Sonic article or piece of news about anything in my life. I loved hearing that. I'm having feelings I didn't know I felt actually right now after reading that. Let's read that one more time. Players will dive into Shadow's dark past, to understand his motivations and learn more about him as a character. Not only are we going to learn more about Shadow the Hedgehog and they're going to add more layers onto him, but we're going to have further understanding of his motivation as a character. And not only that, they're leaning into the fact that his past is particularly dark. That's wild. I can't believe I just read that. That actually is unbelievable. I'm so happy to read that, because with so much Sonic media the past 10 years outside of some more recent stuff, because we know Sonic's been getting back on the ball of being good again. You know, they ignored the fundamentals of what made these characters like their characters, and we're ignoring what like made Shadow and Sonic and Knuckles and all of these characters like the reason why we love them so much. So seeing that they are not only like focusing on that element of his character, but seeming the way they describe it to be diving into it as much as they are going to is music to my ears. Sonic X Shadow Generations combines classic Sonic, modern Sonic, and Shadow gameplay alongside a collection of beloved 2D and 3D stages from Sonic games over the past 20 years. Sonic Generations will now be modernized for PlayStation 5 and PlayStation 4 consoles, while Shadow goes on a standalone journey that explores his backstory and abilities in a way fans have never seen before. The ultimate celebration of Sonic gaming looks better than ever before with upgraded visuals. Don't get me wrong, the Shadow stuff looks beautiful. Definitely like some of the best looking Sonic I think we've had in a very long time. I think you can honestly say it might be the best looking Sonic we've had since like, you know, Unleashed. It looked great, okay? But if you look at like the Generations footage, it doesn't really look that much like touched up. It looks pretty standard, but I'm sure that we'll get better looks at it when we get closer to the release and more trailers released. But this is a big one right here because we do have a quote from Azuka, and whenever Azuka speaks, we listen. So here's what he has to say. With Sonic X Shadow Generations, we wanted to bring Sonic Generations to PS5 and PS4 while pairing a brand new Shadow storyline to cross over with the original story. With Shadow's portion of the title, players will get to know him more as a character and understand his motivations. It will create the ultimate celebration of classic Sonic, modern Sonic, and Shadow gameplay that all fans will surely enjoy. Takashi Iizuka, creative officer, Sonic team. And there you guys have it. That is that article down. So that's our first bit of info out of the way. I loved hearing that from Azuka, and especially hearing that from Azuka's mouth and not just PlayStation, because Sega could put whatever they want inside of like their PR release, but the fact that Azuka, you know, the creative officer of Sonic, you know, like the person who is behind basically all of this, him specifically saying that players will get to know him more as a character and understand his motivations is just, like I said, all I need to hear. Just getting down to these characters more is like, not just me, but I think what all fans have wanted from the series for so long, and that's why I think we love stuff like Frontier so much and why people love the Sonic movies, because we have more understanding of those characters. And with Shadow being so one note, and even like post-Boom, post-Dark Age, all of that stuff, and stuff like, you know, the TSR, like the little animated shorts and Forces, just so one-dimensional, you know, it just didn't get the character. And if they are going to take this in the direction that they're hyping up to be, then this could really truly be something special. Like, that is incredible to read and to hear. I'm so happy about that. But we actually have more details on the plot of Sonic X Shadow Generations. That name is just crazy. If you go right now on Steam, Sonic X Shadow Generations is listed, and we actually have like the entire plot of the game, not like beat by beat, obviously, they're not going to spoil things, but we have basically a synopsis of what this Shadow story is going to hold. So without any further ado, let's friggin' read this thing. Play as Shadow the Hedgehog in a brand new story campaign featuring never before seen powers and abilities. When Shadow's old nemesis Black Doom re-emerges and threatens to take over the world, Shadow must journey into his past, confront painful memories, face familiar foes, and unlock new powers to save the world and prove why he's known as the ultimate life form, baby. Oh my god. It's like kind of just hitting me now how like this is low-key like Shadow the Hedgehog 2. We saw Black Doom in like the trailer along with stuff like Bio Lizard and familiar locations like Radical Highway or Final Chase or stuff like that. Him going to his past I think could have been assumed with this being in Generations and basically doing the whole greatest hits thing, but confronting the painful memories is gonna be so great, which means Maria is going to be a large part of that. So seeing that again is going to be great, especially in like modern context and all of that. But the unlocking new powers is interesting. New powers, like Shadow's a pretty, you know, powerful character with the, you know, the chaos control ability that we already mentioned in that PlayStation article, and obviously his fast speed and just like his overall strength. He's a very powerful character, so I'm really intrigued to see what abilities they're going to give him in this. Also intrigued to see where this takes place in the Sonic timeline. Is this going to take place during Generations along the game? I think that would make sense, honestly. Also really intrigued to see, because we know Shadow is in Sonic Generations. He's in like the final cutscene where he's like, you got this, Sonic, and obviously you fight him in the game in like a little rival boss fight, but I'm interested in that's gonna have any kind of crossover at all, and it'll make sense overall in like the Generations type story. And if you were worried about who might be writing this, I don't think you have to worry about Pontac or Graf. You can be, you know, secure knowing that Ian Flynn is almost certainly working on this, with him dropping another subtle tweet saying #knowing smile. I love you, Ian Flynn. Thank you so much for for being here. I know that Shadow hasn't been the best represented in the comic books, like until more recently, where they've been kind of picking things back up in terms of his characterization, but I wouldn't put that on Ian Flynn. We all know that that was due to Sega mandates and forcing Shadow to like fit a certain mold and be a certain way. Ian Flynn like knows everything there is to know about Sonic. He knows who these characters are, so there's zero worry in my mind that he's going to get this right, because believe it or not, we actually haven't seen Ian Flynn work with Shadow as a character in any Sonic game before. Shadow wasn't in Frontiers, he wasn't in Dream Team, so it's going to be really exciting to see him work with Shadow in this, you know, context. So that's going to be great. I can't freaking wait. Like I mentioned in my last video, which was the reaction to this trailer, I said that I was surprised with kind of how early they dropped this trailer and like the info about this game, with this thing releasing in autumn. Autumn is like pretty far out, especially for like essentially a glorified remaster of Sonic Generations. Yes, the Shadow stuff seems to be pretty expansive and very cool, and I can't freaking wait for it. That means we have a long way to go with a bunch of news coming out about this game. So when can we expect more info on this? And I know that's kind of ridiculous because we literally just got it announced and I'm over here like, all right, when are we getting something else? But I think it's obviously safe to assume that we can expect more info on this at something like Sonic Central, but Sonic Centrals usually take place in like late May or June, and that is still a ways out. So I wouldn't be surprised if more events come up like Summer Games Fest or other like little events, maybe a Nintendo Direct where they'll show off more about this game. They might even just drop random trailers here and there and give more info on it, you never know. But I really hope SIG is able to keep up like the marketing of this thing and keep fans engaged and excited for this, because we saw with games like specifically Sonic Superstars, the hype really died out, and that game was announced in June and the game released in October, which is a much shorter wait than what we're getting. That was a brand new game and hype down like a lot, so I really hope that they're able to keep fan interest up with this thing. It's obviously extremely high right now because it just got announced, but we'll see what kind of legs this has. But of course I'll be here to discuss all of it with you, every single little piece of news that comes out. I was digging, I was searching, I was trying to find everything that I could fit into this video, so still so much to learn about this game, and I will of course bring it to all of you when we find out. But this is where I pass it off to you guys and ask what you think about all of this new info that just came out about Sonic X Shadow Generations. Did you like what you hear? Are you excited for it? Are there some things that were in there that made you a little hesitant about this game? Do you still have any reservations? Let me know in the comment section down below. I'd love to know what you guys have to say. Feel free to follow my social media links, my Twitter and Instagram on the description below. You can follow those magazines on my life feature and all things Sonic the Hedgehog, but most importantly, if you're not subscribed, make sure you are subscribed. This is the #1 destination on YouTube for all things Sonic. Whether it's video games, TV shows, movies, comics, merchandise, and more, we talk about it all. I know we've just got Sonic X Shadow Generations announcements, but you know, we're not slowing down at all. Knuckles news is coming out at any point now. We just saw him pop up in a Super Bowl ad, and with tomorrow, at least the day I'm dropping this video, being Knuckles' birthday, you never know, so stay tuned for that and all the other stuff coming out this year, like especially Sonic Movie 3. I love all you guys so much, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace out. Wonder what you want right now, wonder what you want right now. Used to be about it, used to be about it. And count my dollars, make it all better tomorrow. I'll tell you how, bro. If you see me, I